thanks everybody for joining. Thought this was going to be a fun opportunity now that the weather's warm and folks are starting to get vaccinated. We can be, hang out unmasked and enjoy everything that's going on out here. So this seemed like a perfect time to get folks out and kind of introduce you, if you're not familiar, to some of the stuff going on around Fitchburg and some of the bike trails that we've got that make it such a fun place to live and to visit.
By the way, who are you, buddy?
My name is Phil Groupie. I'm the sustainability specialist with the city of Fitchburg. So thank you. Thank you, kind sir, who I've definitely never met before. Not once. Not even once.
You owe me a bill.
Is there anybody who doesn't know exactly what sustainability is all about? We got a bunch of experts. That's good. That's good. I may be able to get some assistance from you as well. What that was going to lead into was talking about how it is kind of difficult to pin down and define. It's sort of fuzzy. Sustainability, there's a whole bunch of different definitions you can come up with. Any business that wants to keep its model going for the long term can talk about sustaining that business model, whether or not it's focused on the things that I'm looking at in my job. Usually when we talk about sustainability, what we're talking about is kind of the intersection of people, planet, and profit, or environment and economy and equity, that sort of three-legged stool you maybe have heard referred to. There was another really popular definition that came out of a UN report back from the 80s, the Brundtland Commission, that says that sustainable development is development that allows us to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And that's kind of one of the key things is there's a lot of focus on the environmental impact, the environmental aspect of sustainability, which is absolutely crucial. But if it was just about that, it would just be called environmentalism still. And so sustainability really incorporates making sure that things are economically viable so that we can economically sustain this environmental drive, but that also it's done with an equity lens, and we make sure that everyone is benefiting from this and everyone is being that everyone is being targeted with programs with benefits and things like that. So that's very broad. It's really difficult to set distinct boundaries around that. And so saying it's going to be a sustainability bike tour could really go off on countless directions, so that we can't possibly hit all of that today. So it's going to be a tour where we look at some of the things that the city of Fitchburg is doing to kind of shift its focus or continue an ongoing focus into sustainability principles and initiatives. This is a really nice place to start the sustainability bike tour because we are on the Civic Campus, which has the Senior and Community Center, the City Hall, and the Public Library. All three of these buildings have had a lot of investment put into sustainability efforts. What I'm going to talk about more is City Hall and the Public Library, where City Hall and the library have rooftop solar photovoltaic panels. So they're capturing energy from the sun, converting it to electricity. These were part of a 2017 project that the city underwent, where over 360 kilowatts of solar capacity was installed on these two roofs, plus the Public Works Maintenance Building down Fish Hatchery, plus the West Fire Station that we're going to visit over on Marketplace Drive. Between the 4 rooftop solar installations that we had done in 2017, those rooftop panels are delivering about 8% of the municipality's electricity needs per year. So it's a great step towards our 100% goal. Definitely a lot farther to go, but that was a huge investment and a really big chunk taken out at a time where we were probably still in single digits in terms of what percent of the municipality's electricity was renewable. Getting that investment in 2017 was a really big push to kind of preface the 2019 Clean Energy Resolution and sort of further the demonstrating the city's commitment to renewable energy. Some other really cool things, mostly involving the library. Definitely would encourage you, if you're not familiar, to visit it sometime. Check out, we've got a couple of information signs around the parking lot. The public library back in 2012 became a LEED Gold certified building. And if you're not familiar with LEED, it stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's probably the most well-known and the most sought-after green building rating system in the country. And the U.S. Green Building Council gives out these awards for various stages of green infrastructure development. There's a lead for cities, there's a lead for campuses, there's one for kind of interior retrofits. The library got its gold rating for building design and construction. So throughout the design process and the construction phase, a lot of local and recycled materials were used. A lot of the construction waste was recycled. There's a lot of native landscaping that was done to help reduce the need for labor hours in keeping that landscaping up, and also to reduce water usage, reduce irrigation. There are low water fixtures and other ways that, like, gray water is being recycled to reduce the water footprint. And a lot of really solid insulation, natural lighting, plus a geothermal heating and cooling system. So that still uses electricity, but not gas. So it reduces the emissions associated with HVAC. And then as more of our electricity is produced by renewable sources, that geothermal becomes cleaner and cleaner, as it's just using kind of the stable temperature a couple hundred feet down in the earth to maintain a consistent, comfortable temperature in the building. So there's a lot of really cool things with that library. So welcome to McKee Farms Park. McKee Farms Park is one of the, trying to remember the designations, I believe this one is a community park. So there are several different designations of park depending on the size of it and sort of like parking situation, how easy is it for people from a larger area to get to. So smaller, you have more like a neighborhood park. McKee Farms Park is a community park. It's the second largest park in the city of Fitchburg at 58 acres after McGaw Park, which is over on Lacey Road, and somewhere in the 60s, don't remember that one. But McKee Farms Park has, if you haven't spent any time here, you absolutely should. If you have, you know how fantastic this is. So there's a lot of recreational opportunities. There's sports fields, there's tennis courts. There's this family-friendly splash pad back here that's got kind of different elements for different ages or for the whole family to just dump buckets of water on each other. But yeah, this is a fantastic place to be on a day exactly like this one. There's also a couple of ponds that you probably noticed we bike past. There's a lot of tall grass things that are just being allowed to grow for kind of the wildlife. The Parks Department is definitely putting some effort into trying some native landscaping as well. That's a really big one, is if you want the native wildlife to flourish, the flora that they're used to is a fantastic thing to have on hand. Now it can take some work to establish, and so the entire park is not native wildlife, but they're definitely putting some effort into native landscaping. If you're interested in learning more about that, the Resource Conservation Commission and the Tree Committee, the Tree Diversity Committee, is putting on an event in June, I believe Thursday the 17th at Quarry Hill Park. There's going to be a tree diversity event, so there will be an expert to come in and talk about the value of tree diversity, if you want to pursue that in your own property, how to do that, learning to identify different species. It should be a pretty great event. Definitely encourage showing up for that. But yeah, another one of the great things that we can get from our parks here. And then just a really cool opportunity for people who may otherwise never see each other to interact, to mingle, to kind of create that feeling of community and intersection, which is really valuable, especially in a larger one like this. I don't remember the exact number. I think it's 52 is the number of parks and open spaces that Fitchburg has. They're all over the place. So you have really large ones like this. You've got some smaller places like Tower Hill Park. We're creating a neighborhood hub up at North Fish Hatchery and Traceway Drive that's going to be a great recreation and mixing opportunity up along North Fish Hatch. Just some really cool things that can be done with these parks, and when you spread them out as much as Fitchburg has done, what that does is it creates access. So not everybody has access to a vehicle. Not everybody maybe has 15 minutes to bike down here or to even hop on the bus. Having a park that's within a couple blocks of their home means that regardless of their transportation opportunity, regardless of their personal mobility, there is some green space nearby for them to enjoy, even if they don't have any at their own home. So there's a lot of value in that, just for general equity and making the entire community feel more valued and more part of the city, which is incredibly important for hopefully any city, but certainly for Fitchburg. I should, before we head on, I just realized I've used kind of a jargony term a couple times that you may not be familiar with. I've said ecosystem services, which is a term I'm very used to. If you're unfamiliar, and I don't want to just assume that everybody is, it's kind of a general catch-all term to talk about the things that that the ecosystem provides to us. So it's water filtering, it's converting our CO2 into oxygen so we can breathe, it's shade from trees to help reduce the urban heat island effect. So a number of these value adds that we get from the flora and fauna around us are often described as ecosystem services. And so that's something, when you develop an area, some of those get lost. And so development that's seeking to be more sustainable is doing its best to either preserve or restore those ecosystem services however we possibly can, to try and minimize our impact, whether it's carbon footprint or just ecological footprint on the land we've developed. Welcome to the Dolly Bike Hub. Based on, I guess based on my own experience biking around Dane County, my guess is even if you've been biking the trails a lot around here, you're really familiar with the area, you may not know about this spot. It took me a long time to learn. Basically, once I started with Fitchburg, I heard about it and I said, I'm sorry, what, a bike hub right here? So it's just a really nice, kind of a nice little oasis stop-off spot. I think most of you found the water station. If you didn't, certainly avail yourselves of that. It's a great spot to park and start or finish a trip here. Obviously, the restrooms are here. Little bit of a trek to get up the hill, but certainly worth it with the view here overlooking the Dolly Conservancy, and kind of the Duns Marsh area back behind. This is a super fun spot. It's a really, really nice place to relax and enjoy. I've been mostly talking. Sorry? Oh yes, thank you. A bike repair station. So all the tools you might need to adjust the seat height or help fix a flat or various other things your bike may need. Fitchburg has two regionally known mountain bike, single track mountain bike trails. One right here, one down closer to McKee Road, the Quarry Ridge. It's a destination for mountain cyclists in the area. Certainly bike trails are a great recreation opportunity, whether you're doing long touring rides more like what we're doing today if you're doing mountain biking. Madison is looking at putting in a pump track for more like beginners over at Leopold Park, and Fitchburg is also looking at one at that neighborhood hub that we're currently working on at Traceway and Fish Hatchery. So we're going to have biking recreation opportunities and kind of learning how to handle your bike for different levels of comfort, different, beginner, intermediate, advanced riders, which is going to be really exciting to be able to have something that challenges people whatever level they're at. Certainly as a hint, one of the things I'm looking for is it's great for your health. Biking is fantastic for your physical health, the muscles, the cardiovascular, your lung health, kind of your whole core strength and posture. It's a great mental health benefit. What else do we have? Commuting. It's a fantastic way to commute if your location is right for it, if the infrastructure's there. It's a great substitute for cars. You get more cars off the street and bikes on the trails. Not only do you cut down on carbon emissions, that's the obvious one, that direct elimination of fossil fuel emissions, but by getting more cars off the road, you also cut down on car traffic, so there's less stop and go. The cars that remain on the road also are more efficient in their driving then. So you kind of get a twofer there. When you replace your car with a bicycle on as many trips as you can, you're eliminating your own emissions as well as reducing somebody else's, which is fantastic. Fitchburg has, and I'm going to again forget the exact number, 44 is what I have in my head, 44 miles of off-road bike trails. So we're not even talking about bike shoulders and things like the current lane along Lacey Road that we're going to ride later today, not over Seminole where Tony's talking about, but closer to Fish Hatchery. But off-street bike facilities, separate bike lanes, we have something like 44 miles in Fitchburg. Fitchburg is known as a bike-friendly community, so the League of American Bicyclists has given Fitchburg a bike-friendly community award 3 times in the past 9 years. We have to keep applying for it every few years. Initially, we were awarded a bronze designation. The last 2 times we've gotten silver, and we're pushing to try to get to gold. If Fitchburg can become a gold bike-friendly community, at this point, there's only one other in the entire state of Wisconsin, and that's Madison, which just reached platinum in 2019 when we were renewed at silver. So we're trying to become the second gold or better city in the state.
I think there's only 2 other silver cities.
2 other silvers? Okay. So yeah, it is known as a bike-friendly place. The roundabout, we're not going to be able to get to it today because Madison Metro Sewer District is doing an interceptor replacement for their kind of Nine Valley interceptors. So the bike roundabout is currently inaccessible, but we're going to end up coming to the Cap City Trail right short of the roundabout where 5 significant trails intersect here in Fitchburg. The Badger State Trail, which if you keep taking north becomes the Southwest Commuter Path, the Cannonball Trail, the Military Ridge State Trail, and the Capital City Trail. So that is kind of a known spot, again, for regional cyclists. Let's meet at the Velo Underground, at the bike roundabout. It's kind of cool that that's a thing that Fitchburg's got. The mountain bike trails are certainly something that are well known and a destination for cyclists in the area. And then, of course, another one we're going to see as we keep biking. We're going to go down towards the roundabout. We're going to go up onto the Badger State Trail and take it south across McKee Road, where we just added last year our 3rd major bike bridge in Fitchburg. So we've got the Capital City Trail going across Fish Hatchery, the Badger State Trail going across McKee, and then farther west the Military Ridge State Trail going across McKee. There aren't a lot of cities that can say they have one bike overpass that nice, and we've got 3. Again, it's just a really special destination for cycling, which is, whether we're talking about community health or thinking about how we develop or the emissions reductions from getting on your bike instead of driving a car, another big component of sustainability is that embracing bicycling as a community. Fitchburg has done a great job of that, and hopefully will continue to kind of lead the way in the state. So we are at the West Fire Station here, or Fire Station number 2. It probably has other names that I'm blanking on right now. But this is our second newest fire station in Fitchburg. This was completed 2015?
2017 it says on the building. Right there on the cornerstone.
Was completed in 2017, as you can clearly see on the cornerstone. If you didn't see it already, there's a sandhill crane right by the corner of the building, so that's fun. The West Fire Station here is one of those 4 buildings I mentioned, has the rooftop PV from 2017. This fire station also uses geothermal, and they've got a solar hot water system. You can see that on the roof up there. That's those kind of 45-degree angle panels is for solar hot water. The West Fire Station here is one of the reasons that Fitchburg was the second or third most awarded climate champion from the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change last year. So they spent, as part of their climate initiative that they launched last year, they began recognizing local achievements in energy efficiency and general climate mitigation or climate change reduction strategies. Fitchburg received 4 different awards. So the city was named a water champion at the 3-star level out of 4. The West Fire Station here and our library were named 1-star champions for energy efficiency, for energy savings. And the East Fire Station that just went in late 2019, it began full operations over on Cyene Road. That fire station is an emerging energy reduction climate champion. So we were one of only 4 entities in the entire county to get more than 3 such designations, and one of only 2 municipalities, us and Madison. One thing that I did kind of forget to mention is the benefits of cycling. As I was biking through the Cap City Trail there, several bird calls that I did not recognize, and I was like, oh right, the whole connection to kind of connection to a location. You get a very different sense of place when you're biking or walking or running than when you're in a car. So that's definitely something I should have mentioned and you're probably aware of, but once you get on that bike, it really can change your relationship to the areas you're traveling around in. And sometimes you see cranes and hear other birds, which is pretty cool. So welcome to, or I guess technically just adjacent to, the O'Brien farm. So both sides of Seminole Highway here, we're flanked by a farm owned by the O'Briens, who are currently leasing out, see if I can get this right, 160 acres of their land to Madison Gas and Electric and EDF Renewables, who partnered on creating these huge solar fields you see on either side of the road. So this is 20 megawatts of capacity of solar arrays. So that's roughly 8 acres per megawatt. They are going to be providing electricity. They're going live at some point, I believe, in the next month. I don't know an exact date, but I know the target was early summer. And they'll be providing energy for, generally for MG&E's grid. They're contracted with 7 commercial customers, including the city of Fitchburg, to provide electricity from these panels. It sort of works like renewable energy credits. So Fitchburg and 6 other commercial customers signed renewable energy riders. So it's basically a special contract that says for the life of these panels, we're going to be purchasing a certain percentage of the electricity produced by it, and we'll pay this. Fitchburg signed a flat rate. So over 25 years, the rate for that energy provided stays flat. Doesn't matter what the rest of their energy sources do. If gas was still a major component of their grid and that gets really expensive, it doesn't change the price of what we're getting from here. So that was a huge advantage for the city of Fitchburg. As was sourcing, the Fitchburg will be buying the equivalent of a half a megawatt of capacity. It should deliver roughly 20% of the city's electricity needs per year. So that renewable energy rider that Fitchburg signed with MG&E is going to take Fitchburg from roughly 20% of electricity being renewable to 40% as soon as this project goes live. So that's really exciting. It's, again, another great step towards achieving our commitments on clean energy. So one thing you may notice about these panels, this is a little bit of a newer technology. There are 60,000 solar panels here. They are what's called bidirectional panels. So usually the back of a solar panel is just black to basically absorb as much of that solar radiation as possible. The problem is that means that only the face of the panel collects electricity. These are bidirectional, so you can see it's actually clear in the back and you can see that sort of texture of the panels. So any light that's reflecting off of the panel behind it or off of the ground can also be absorbed by the panels through the reverse side. So they're actually more efficient that way. They're not live yet. Once they go live, they will actually, you'll see them tilting different directions and they'll track the movement of the sun across the sky. So it's a really, really cool project. This, once it goes live, I'm sure there are huge ones behind it, but once this project goes live, it will at that moment be the largest single solar project in Dane County. If you're an MG&E customer, they also do things like Green Power Tomorrow, where you can pay a small surcharge to get wind power delivered that you're essentially paying for part of your home's electricity to be delivered by wind power. There's another similar one for solar called shared solar that they're doing. I think I just got an email from them. I believe they're 95% subscribed for the year, but there is.
Arcadia.
Sorry?
Arcadia.
I think that's the Arcadia project. Yep. Yeah. So that's one where again you pay a surcharge and then a fixed fee to get similar to a renewable energy credit. You're paying to further the development of renewable energy, and that essentially becomes part of your home's electricity that you can claim. So another really good way to support the growth of renewable energy. Certainly as battery capacity becomes more viable both at a utility and at a commercial and even residential scale, renewable energy becomes even more of a viable option, because one of the biggest problems with renewable energy is you're not always using it when the sun's shining and the wind's blowing. So if you can capture it in a battery, whenever you're overproducing, it's getting stored, and now that's something you can draw off of at night on a calm day, things like that. So definitely, if you're looking at ways to increase your support for renewable energy, there's a lot of really good options. One thing I didn't mention here, because Tony was talking about kind of when the ground lays fallow, you're kind of helping to regenerate nutrients in the soil. Another thing that MG&E and EDF are doing with this project is that they're covering the ground beneath the panels with pollinator-friendly plants. So not only is it going to be restorative for nutrients, but this is also going to provide a valuable resource for local pollinators, for local wildlife. So it's not just that the land is being used for solar, but there's even something else beyond that. It's like the renewable energy version of square foot gardening. So that's cool. Last stop here, we're at the south end of Burn Park here, and this basically depression in the soil you're looking at is known as Burn Pond, which might be a little odd because it's lacking one thing ponds usually have, which is the water. So most of the retention and stormwater ponds we have in Fitchburg are wet ponds. So we saw some of those over by Oak Bank at Seminole and McKee. We saw kind of Apache Pond sort of serves as Tony was describing as a retention pond. Most of our ponds are wet, and they just kind of help to keep water in one place, keep it from running off at too high a volume, try to help to filter out some sediment from the water. Burn Pond is one of just a couple dry ponds in Fitchburg. So this one is, I guess you'd refer to it as an ephemeral pond. It's temporary. It appears after the rain and then goes away again as the water, it kind of, roughly 43 acres drained down this rocky path into the pond. And so it kind of goes through the pond here in stages. There are a few different sections. The first one that just looks like mud, that's where the water initially sits and sediment will settle out. There's a little bit of a ridge there that the water slowly filters through. It spreads out in that larger grassy area. And again, just over time, you get some infiltration into the soil. And then the last section, there's further infiltration and then a slow trickle out sort of beyond that culvert, that concrete culvert you can see. So this used to just flood out that farmland beyond the culvert there. And this is a strategy that's used to try to minimize runoff, minimize erosion, and also filter that water out before it goes along its merry way. So that's a really important thing. You might have also noticed as we were biking on Lacey Road past the Stoner Prairie residential development at Seminole and Lacey, kind of at that northeast corner there. It was off to our left as we biked along Lacey. You've probably seen those what look like big brown socks kind of stretched along the soil. There were the black sheets that were spread around. Those are all different strategies that developers will use and cities will use to try to minimize runoff. You don't get as much of that that sort of channel, a runnel dug in the soil that's pulling erosion off and depositing a lot of silt and sediment into streams and lakes and rivers. So those are strategies that the county and the city have certain requirements for developers to minimize runoff, and then some also go above and beyond, which is fantastic, and we certainly encourage that. But all these are strategies because we've put so much hardscape in that limits the amount of pervious material, soil and the like, that has that capacity to actually infiltrate and absorb water in heavy rain. So things like this are one strategy taken to try and increase that infiltration, minimize runoff, and then hopefully we take more of these steps to try and minimize occurrences like what happened in, I forget if it was 2017 or 18 when we had the 13 inches of rain and just everything flooded. Now, a 13-inch rain like that, you can only do so much to plan for it. That's one of those once-in-a-century things, and you don't expect that to happen every year. But we do everything we can to make sure that, the 5 to 10-inch rains, we're fully prepared for that. And if there is a 13, we have strategies in place to minimize that sort of overflooding and damage. So this is really exciting. Bern just last year, early this year is when they completed a lot of the work on Bern. The last thing that I think is remaining is they're talking about possibly planting some natives in there as well. But I think it just sort of depends on kind of funding and the direction they decide to go with that.